After Western sanctions cut off much of Russia's economy, Moscow responded with something less visible but far harder to trace: invisibility itself. Ships with swapped flags, falsified registries, and hidden owners turned oil transport into a game of shadows. Thus, the Shadow Fleet was born, a ghost network keeping oil money flowing to finance the war effort. But now, that network is being strangled right where it breathes, in the narrow Baltic Sea. Denmark, holding one of the world's most strategic maritime choke points, decided to use something the ships can't fight back against: the law. Instead of missiles or blockades, Copenhagen responded with environmental inspections and ruthless technical checks at the choke points where tens of thousands of ships pass each year. Denmark's plan is simple and brilliant: track, inspect, immobilize. Authorities are now checking documentation, insurance, hull conditions, waste, and emission systems. For ships without valid registration, insurance, or compliant equipment, the consequence is immediate: detainment, fines, and bans. For a fleet built on secrecy and shortcuts, each inspection drains millions. With the war costing an estimated $1 billion per day, losing oil revenue strikes directly at the Kremlin's lifeline. The pressure is sharpened further by EU emission and safety laws, rules the Shadow Fleet routinely violates. This strategy doubles as a political trap. By demanding transparency, Denmark forces Moscow's hand. Any formal protest would require Russia to admit ownership of the ships it denies controlling. In other words, to complain would be to confess. Geography and technology have joined the fight. The Baltic is small, and its exits narrow. The Skagerrak and Kattegat Straits, gateways to the Atlantic, are controlled by NATO members Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. If they coordinate, Russia's ghost ships could be trapped. Bornholm Island, once just a dot on the map, has become a strategic outpost. New regiments, patrols, and multinational drills have turned it into a hub for surveillance and defense. And it's not just humans watching. Denmark now deploys autonomous maritime drones, solar-powered vessels equipped with AI, cameras, and radar, capable of watching for weeks. They detect illegal fuel transfers, emission spikes, or tampered transponders, collecting evidence for legal sanctions without ever firing a shot. On the other side, Russia's scheme depends on old, discarded ships, vessels the global market had already rejected. Reports say the Shadow Fleet grows by dozens of ships each month, many over 15 years old, uninsured, and uninspected. The risks go far beyond economics. Aging tankers carrying toxic cargoes threaten environmental disasters. Oil slicks and smaller leaks have already been reported. Warnings of greater spills to come. The math is what drives Russia's persistence. Since 2022, billions have been spent buying outdated tankers to keep oil exports alive, a move that also enriched some Western middlemen through opaque deals. But every ship detained or banned now means hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, of dollars lost to Moscow's war chest. Europe's response goes beyond Denmark. The UK has already sanctioned hundreds of suspected vessels, and the EU's blacklist grows monthly. Coordinated inspections and sanctions could soon turn the Baltic into a closed corridor for any ship operating in the shadows. Russia's reactions were predictable and risky: close encounters, radar locks, and GPS jamming near key Danish routes. But Copenhagen has chosen not to retaliate militarily. Its offensive is legal, technical, and environmental, nearly impossible for Moscow to challenge without revealing its hidden ties. This is a new kind of geopolitical chess game, where laws, not weapons, define control at sea. If NATO allies move in sync, these inspections could isolate not only ships, but also the payment networks and companies behind them. Each inspection is a small victory, each immobilized tanker, a direct financial wound. And while the operations continue, new questions rise. How much longer can Russia sustain this hidden economy? How long before the cost of maintaining a secret fleet outweighs its profits? And what will Moscow do next, once its silent trade routes start collapsing? Denmark's actions reveal a deeper truth, that modern wars aren't won only with force, but with control over information, logistics, and law. At sea, where anonymity once offered safety, transparency has become the most devastating weapon of all. But the story is far from over. Bornholm is militarizing, drones are watching, ships are being inspected. Signs of escalation are everywhere, and the coming months may decide whether this operation becomes just another episode, or the turning point in dismantling the secret economy fueling the war. As the ships continue, or are detained, one haunting question lingers across ports and political corridors. Who wins when the shadow is exposed? And who loses when the secret is revealed? The year is closing in on winter, and the Baltic winds have changed. What began as Denmark's legal strike has evolved into something much larger, a silent confrontation spreading across Europe's northern waters. Behind every inspection, every detained tanker, lies a growing web of surveillance, diplomacy, and power plays. The Shadow Fleet may have been born in secrecy, but now it's being hunted in the open. By mid-October, satellite images began revealing unusual maritime traffic patterns. Russian-linked ships, once frequent in the Skagen and Bornholm routes, started diverting through riskier, longer paths north of Norway. Others shut down their automatic identification systems entirely, vanishing from global radar before reappearing near neutral ports weeks later. It was the kind of digital disappearance that intelligence analysts have seen before, but never at this scale. Denmark's Naval Command, working quietly with NATO's Maritime Surveillance Center in Karup, has started mapping these movements. Every missing transponder, every false flag, every ship changing course mid-route is being logged and investigated. The data tells a chilling story. As Russia hides, it loses time, money, and control. But the deeper threat isn't just economic, it's environmental and strategic. In late September, one of the aging tankers, the Volna Star, suffered an engine fire near Gotland, spilling thousands of liters of oil into the Baltic. The incident, initially downplayed by Moscow, forced Sweden and Finland to send emergency vessels to contain the slick. Investigators soon discovered that the ship's registration papers were fake, its insurance expired, and its ownership traced through 4 shell companies, all connected to the same Russian energy trader under EU sanctions. It was a warning shot from the sea itself. As reports of ghost ships mounted, Denmark accelerated the militarization of Bornholm Island, now a fortress in all but name. New radar towers were installed, along with long-range drones capable of tracking ships day and night. AI-assisted command centers can now cross-reference live footage with international ship databases in seconds, identifying anomalies in real time. And in a move that surprised even its NATO allies, Denmark announced that its Bornholm regiment would include cyber defense units trained to detect maritime spoofing, the same digital trick Russia's fleet uses to fake GPS coordinates and signal false identities. Every hour, the island systems sweep the surrounding sea, searching for ships that shouldn't be there. Every false ping becomes a lead. Every silence, a suspicion. Yet, behind the scenes, Copenhagen walks a tightrope. Officially, Denmark's actions are based on environmental and safety regulations. Unofficially, everyone knows what's at stake: the financial arteries that keep Russia's war running. The Kremlin is not standing still. Intelligence sources in Brussels and Vilnius report that Russian electronic warfare ships have increased patrols near NATO waters, testing Denmark's resolve. There have been at least 3 confirmed incidents of GPS interference targeting Danish and Swedish vessels, a silent warning that Moscow can still disrupt the game. Meanwhile, in Murmansk and Kaliningrad, Russia is refitting old naval surveillance ships with drone launching decks and advanced jamming systems. Their mission: to confuse, disrupt, and delay. But in this new kind of warfare, brute force matters less than proof. Every time Russia jams or interferes, Denmark collects the signal data, timestamps, frequencies, coordinates, evidence. The kind that wins not in combat, but in international courts, sanctions committees, and energy summits. Denmark's gamble is paying off. By fighting with transparency, it's winning a war built on deceit. What few realize is how coordinated this campaign truly is. While Denmark acts as the public face, NATO intelligence has been feeding Copenhagen a steady stream of satellite and cyber data. American and British analysts track ship ownership networks, identifying companies laundering Russian oil profits. Norway monitors Arctic routes. Germany cross-checks European fuel imports for anomalies. Together, they've built what one insider calls the Sea Web, a live intelligence map linking shadow vessels, shell corporations, and trade routes. It's not a blockade in the traditional sense, but something far more suffocating: a digital net closing around Russia's secret trade. By November, effects began to show. Oil exports via the Shadow Fleet dropped 12%. Insurance premiums for unregistered tankers tripled. And in the Russian port of Primorsk, several ships sat idle for weeks, unable to find buyers willing to risk sanction-linked cargo. For a war economy already bleeding cash, this was catastrophic. Western analysts estimate that each immobilized tanker represents up to $70 million in delayed exports. Multiply that by dozens of ships, and the cost of Denmark's silent strike becomes clear. In Moscow, frustration is growing. Officials call the Danish inspections economic warfare, but privately admit they can't respond without legitimizing the accusations. The Kremlin's own secrecy has become its greatest weakness.